All right, today we're going to do a carb clean on a Gen 1 450X Honda. Gen 1s are the '05 to '17 450X, kind of based off that '02 to '08 era 450R that most people are familiar with. There's still a lot of these bikes around out here in the Southwest and the West Coast. A lot of people riding them in Baja in the desert, and they're just, some of them have been sitting a while. So I think this one sat for about a year. The owner had an injury and got healed up and back to riding. So it sat with a little fuel in it. You can see the little drain plug there on the bottom of the bowl is pretty gummed up. But we're gonna get it all apart, torn down, cleaned, um, new gaskets, new seals, and fully rebuilt and back on the bike for him. This video is sped up, so as you can kind of tell, it's double speed on the video just to kind of, I don't think anybody wants to watch me clean a carb for an hour, so try to condense it down, but want to kind of show all the steps of this process. So there's the accelerator pump, getting all those gaskets and O-rings out of there, and I'll show you further along in the video all the parts that I actually use to rebuild. There's not really anywhere that makes a complete kit that has everything that you need. So I'll show you all the parts that I use. Getting the jets out of here. So that's a 6 and an 8. One thing I did mention when I was pulling the bowl and the accelerator pump cover off, and there's one more screw here coming up in a moment. The Phillips screws, air quotes Phillips screws on these carbs are not Phillips. They are JIS screws. So use a JIS screwdriver, not a Phillips, and you will not strip them out. Another key thing here, I just pulled the fuel mixture screw out, and there is a spring, a washer, and an O-ring that sit on top of that. Make sure you get those out. I use a little dental pick to get those out. Sometimes they can be a little tough. So there's that JIS screwdriver for where the fuel line comes into the carb there. I end up going back when I rebuild these carbs and I replace all the air quotes Phillips screws, the GIS screws, with Allen's because most people don't have a GIS screwdriver. Um, so if you just replace them with Allen's, pretty much anybody that has a motorcycle is going to have an Allen, and it's a little easier for other people to get those things on and off. You can see on the bench there where I'm putting the O-rings, some of them are split apart because these things they'll eventually get hard and basically turn into plastic. So when you take them off, they'll just be plastic and almost break apart. We're splitting the mid body right now. You do need a security Torx on if it's a newer 450X, like I think this bike's like a 16. Those are security Torxes. They used to be Allen's when they were external screws to get the mid body apart, but these internal ones, it's a security Torx. I think it's a T25. If you buy the JD mid body gasket set, it will come with one. So there's the mid body. A lot of people neglect this part of a carb clean, and you'll see how many gaskets and O-rings are actually in this area. So there's another one there. Um, if you're chasing a lean D cell pop, which is super common, you clean the pilot jet and the bowl's clean and all that stuff. Just do yourself a favor and do a complete carb clean like this. Do one more big O-ring coming off here on this thing. So this area, this is where the accelerator pump goes through. There's a passage that goes through there and a check valve, and there's kind of a lot to that area. So make sure that area gets cleaned and gets all new, fresh parts. Otherwise, you'll be chasing your tail. I stripped these things all the way down. This thing's going to go in the ultrasonic cleaner. So you saw in the clip at the beginning there, I was putting Fabuloso in my ultrasonic cleaner. So I just put hot water in there and then a splash of Fabuloso, let that thing get up to temperature while I'm stripping the carb apart. There's a few things I don't put in there, like I just pulled the choke out there. It's kind of all plastic, so I don't put like all plastic parts in there, especially something that moves like a choke like that. Like the float's fine, but stay away from that. And then you'll kind of see when I put the main body of the carb in, I'll try to keep the throttle position sensor out of the water. Um, yep, just disassembling the top of the carb here, getting the needle out. And then to get the arm off of the slide, that's also another one of those security torques. It used to be a JIS screw, but I don't know if it was EPA or what, but they started putting things on these carbs so you couldn't mess with them. But unfortunately, it makes it difficult to clean and service them also. So make sure you pick one of those up if you're going to be working on one of these FCR carbs off of like a Gen 1 450X. Like I said, the newer ones, like kind of oh 09 and later, '08 and later. All right, so ultrasonic cleaner's hot, and we're just going to start throwing parts in here. And the default setting for when I actually turn it on, when the machine actually vibrates, is 15 minutes. So usually I just do the standard 15 minutes. If something is still a little dirty or not as clean as I would like, I'll just throw it back in on the second batch because I usually have to do two batches anyway, and the carb body won't fit in there. Usually like to do that one kind of by itself. So bowl and carb body I'm going to leave out. And then here we go. Here's our first batch. On this mid body, you can see what I'm kind of pulling out with my finger there. They will kind of glue, the factory will kind of glue that big O-ring on there. So you'll see like this yellow glue stuff still kind of on there. And that little bowl screw is still dirty. You can see it was still dirty, so I'm going to put that back in. So it's not perfect. Look at every part. You know, sometimes dirt or gunk or something falls off one part and kind of lands on another part that's sitting underneath it in the basket or whatever. So just inspect everything really good. And then I take all this stuff over and blow it all off with air really, really good before I start to rebuild it so that it's completely dry. And yeah, make sure everything's clean. Same thing like with the jets there. You know, I'm looking at the pilot jet right there. I'll take all those jets over to my air nozzle and blow them all out. So that bowl screw and the bowl going back in, and then I'm going to do the main body of the carb. So I always kind of lay it on its side and try to keep that TPS out of the liquid. So you can see the black throttle position sensor there and the plug that I kind of kept outside of the cleaner. So there it is, all cleaned up. And then here's the parts we're going to use. So this is Honda's rebuild kit. There's the part number. There's the slide seal, get that from Yamaha. And then the last piece is this one's from JD Jetting. That's that mid-body gasket set. So those are all the parts you need. And if it's a little bit older carb with an older style uh, accelerator pump, I will update that accelerator pump to the '09 Honda 250 F1. And that part number is 16021-MEN-A01. So I always update the accelerator pumps on all these carbs. to that one, but you can see the cover there on the bottom left. It has the check valve built into the accelerator pump cover. If you are updating it, you do need to knock out the check valve in the bowl of the carburetor to put that new style one on. This bike already had it, so no demo on that in the video. But when you do buy it, it does come with a new shaft, so you have to pull the other shaft out of the like throttle cam area and then put the new shaft in. Like I said, knock that check valve out of the bowl, and then you can run the new accelerator pump. If you look on the bottom left of the yellow towel, you'll see the accelerator pump cover sitting there, and it kind of has a big ridge on it, and that's the check valve. So older bikes, it was in the bowl. Updated one, it is on the cover. So we're just going to put all this back together the way it came apart. Slide seal back in the slide. The reason why I buy that from Yamaha is if you look up the microfiche, Honda does not sell it separately. You have to buy the entire slide to get that, or at least the slide plate, I think. But it's like $100 and something, and Yamaha sells it separately. So that's why you see the one Yamaha part. And on the mid-body gasket set, I believe All Balls also sells kits for these carbs, mid-body gasket sets, and I think you can get those through WPS if you go to like your local shop or look them up online, however you get your parts. So we got the slide back in already. Not really too much you can mess up there on the shaft that holds the arm that lifts the slide up and down. There's two washers in there. One's metal, one's plastic. They kind of have an order. Just pay attention to everything the way it comes apart. Right now, we're prepping the mid-body screws. Always Loctite those because I've had one come loose. So um, when you buy those mid-body gasket sets, they come with all the gaskets, like the one I just dropped there. New screws. So the two little ones here, and then the four larger ones that actually hold the mid-body to the main body of the carb. It's be a little tough to start, but get them started, reach in there with your Allen, tighten them up. And here comes my daughter with some more questions. All right. Wheels done. Putting the carb together. Oh, that's cool. Full rebuild kit, man.
So you'll post all of this on Instagram?
No, I'll probably put it on YouTube.
What? You'll put it on YouTube?
Yeah.
What's that little glue stick red bottle right there?
What's that? Where?
Right there.
Oh, that's Loctite.
What's that?
It's like glue for the bolts. YouTube.
I need to. Okay, so I knows how to do it. You'll post it on YouTube.
Yeah. All right, so we got the mid body back in there. Kind of while I was chatting with my kid. She comes out in the garage a lot and chats with me when I'm working on stuff. This is just a side job for me. I have a different job, but I still enjoy working on bikes. I've kind of done it on and off since I was in high school. So um, yeah, did my own maintenance as a kid with my dad. Worked in shops, and then once I started my career, kind of started still taking in bikes on the side at the house, and that's what you see me working on now. So I am at my house in my personal garage. That's my 450 right behind me. Um, my kid comes out in the garage and checks stuff out once in a while. She's 5. She rides as well. Mom rides. So I think kids are generally very curious. So sometimes she has some good questions, and I'll leave those little clips in there. So mid body's back on. We're putting the nozzle back in, put the main jet, pilot jet, all that stuff back in here in a second, and the float. And once that's all done, basically just have the needle at the top of the carb and the accelerator pump, and this thing's cruising back together pretty well. This video is sped up. It is edited. I didn't show the disassembly of the bike to get the carb out. I'm not going to show the full reassembly of the bike to put the carb back in. Um, I wanted to make it something that people could watch, and if somebody's going to clean their own carburetor, I'm assuming they can get the carb in and out of the bike themselves. So I kind of wanted to show the meat and the potatoes here of what's going on. I do use a little grease on some of these O-rings, like the mid-body ones, sometimes to get them to stay. And like this one here, where this the fuel line holder goes into the carb, so I'll put a little bit of grease on there so I don't tear those O-rings up when I'm sliding them in like that. But yeah, this job is about a 3 hour job. I charge 3 hours of labor for it. It's about $100 in parts, $400 for a carb clean. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Um, but I generally will not just take somebody's bike in when it has a D-cell pop and clean a pilot jet, because as you saw disassembling all those gaskets and O-rings and stuff, there's a lot more to it than that. So I kind of will only do it one way, and I will guarantee it, and I will jet it and all that. And if someone doesn't like the way their bike's running or whatever, bring it back to me, no charge, no questions asked. So that's how I operate on these. Don't forget your spring, your washer, and your O-ring on the fuel mixture screw here. Now, these bikes in this era, they did not come with a fuel mixture screw that you could easily access with a flat blade. So it's like a little D-shaped thing. It's recessed up in there. If you can get that thing out, then order just a fuel mixture screw off like an '08 450R Honda and throw that thing in, and then it's easily serviceable, like the one you just saw me put in there. Uh, Sorry, my camera skills here, but I'm checking the float height right there, and I wasn't happy with it, so I'm going to adjust it a little bit. Sorry for not showing that. Put our choke back in. I just cleaned that with contact cleaner. They said those plastic parts that kind of move around, I don't like to put them in the ultrasonic cleaner. I may or may not have put one of those chokes in the ultrasonic cleaner, and then it was real sticky and notchy. So I just clean those with air and contact cleaner. Our needle's back in. I always put the NCYS needle in. It's Honda's lettering on the needle. I don't know the part number off the top of my head. And I usually will always put a number 50 leak jet in these carbs. And then fuel mixture main, I will adjust based on kind of how the bike is built. And usually always stick with a 45 pilot. Um, Same thing with the idle adjustment here. I just clean that with contact cleaner and air. So by taking that thing all the way out, your idle is going to be potentially way off where it was. So just remember that when you're firing up the bike, you may have to mess with the idle adjustment a bit to get it to fire, or give it a little bit of throttle to get it to fire. There's those Allen screws I was talking about, um, the ones for the bowl and the top of the carb. So you need 6. Those are a little longer, and then you need 3 for the accelerator pump cover, and those are a little shorter. I don't have the links on me right now. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, just DM me on my Instagram. It's just at JDL Racing on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. I can send you part numbers or links and sizes of screws that I use or whatever. Any other questions? So we'll put all those things in. And once this thing is assembled, what I forgot to film, and I'll show it on the bike, but normally I will always time the accelerator pump on the bench. So I'll connect the fuel line from the fuel tank or get some fuel into the bowl of the carburetor, and I'll just rock the throttle cable, that cam back and forth, and time that accelerator pump squirt so that it goes right underneath the slide. And I'm also checking for how strong it is. So if I'm like doing this in the driveway or in the garage, usually you'll see that squirt of fuel go 4 or 5 feet easily. I kind of always do it like in the same spot on the workbench, and usually it'll hit the inside of my garage door. So sorry I didn't film that off of the bike, but I did show it. I'll show it here in a second when it's on the bike. So there's the diaphragm and the spring. The diaphragm does only go in there one way, and then you have 2 little O-rings for the cover. Cover goes on, and that is it for the carb getting put together. So I'll just show a quick little bit of it going into the bike here. Probably the hardest part is getting the hot start connected. It always helps if you slide the little boot off of the plastic nut, so then you can turn the plastic nut with your fingers to get the nut into the body of the carb, and then just slide that boot back over the nut with a flat blade screwdriver. So that's what I'm going to do there. Pop that carb into the intake manifold, get it all lined up. Connect your throttle cables, lower one first, tighten that thing down, and then we'll throw the upper one on. And normally you would throw the throttle cable cover, the black cover with the little 4mm Allen that holds it on there. But if you didn't time the accelerator pump on the bench, then leave that cover off, because the accelerator pump timing screw is right there below the throttle cables. It's a little, air quotes, Phillips GIS screw. I think you can even use a flat blade on it to adjust when that accelerator pump kicks in. And that'll be it. You guys can hear it run here in a sec, and thanks.